Well, after almost 7 hours, one of the men's semifinals at Wimbledon has come to a conclusion, and that was the semifinal between Kevin Anderson and John Isner. That's the one I want to break down for you now. The Novak Djokovic versus Rafael Nadal semifinal has just begun, and I will cover that match in another episode. For now, I want to focus on Anderson versus Isner and then get this done so I can go watch the Djokovic versus Nadal semifinal. So, subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. This is Tennis Talk Daily. In a way, Isner and Anderson are sort of cut from the same cloth. They represent a new breed of tennis player. Really tall guys who bring tremendous serves, but also surprisingly effective ground games. Their ground strokes are sort of modeled on the serve. Everything is serve-oriented. They are, as Roger Federer calls them, big hitters. Isner in particular also brings very impressive net skills. He was certainly outplaying Kevin Anderson at the net today. It was the ground game where Anderson was a bit superior, just like he was with Federer, and that's why Anderson ultimately won. The final score, Kevin Anderson prevails into his second Grand Slam final, 7-6, 6-7, 6-7, 6-4, and finally 26-24. Isner led in the head-to-head 8-3 against Anderson coming into this match. They'd met once on grass a long time ago, and Isner prevailed, but Anderson has become a different player in the last few years. So it was expected, particularly after the Anderson performance against Federer the other day, that this would be a competitive match. It was expected that there would be tie breaks, a lot of them, and it was expected to go 5 sets. Well, this match, as it happened, met the expectations. A few games into the first set, it looked like Isner was going to have the edge in this match, particularly on the return game. In the third game with Anderson serving, Isner really turned it on and executed one of the finest return games I've ever seen in my life, right up until the point that he lost it. But it was a 13-minute game, and it was a very impressive showing from Isner. Well, the first set did go to a breaker, and they were neck and neck right to 6-6 in the breaker. Then Isner errors basically gave Anderson the first set. He won the breaker 8-6. In the second set, some cracks in the Isner edifice began to appear. Anderson was able to get to a break point on Isner's serve in the 9th game, which Isner saved with a 126-mile-per-hour second serve. In the tiebreaker, with attacking returns, Isner went up 6-3 and had a triple set point. But then Anderson fought back to 6-5. The drama was building. Isner was on serve, his last set point, and he finalized it with an ace. Then, in the third set, the unthinkable occurred. Kevin Anderson broke the mighty John Isner in the 8th game for the first time in the tournament, just as he had broken Roger Federer for the first time in the tournament. But then Isner turned around and broke Anderson right back and drove the third set to a breaker. Anderson had a set point at 8-7 on serve in the breaker, but then double faulted. Oh dear, Isner won the third set tiebreak 11-9 with a penetrating return off an Anderson second serve. In the fourth set, the unthinkable happened again. In the 5th game, Kevin Anderson broke the mighty Isner again. Isner turned around once again and broke back. It was absolutely mind-boggling, but then Anderson just had the edge on the ground. In the 9th game, Anderson broke Isner for a third time, then went up 40-love, serving for the set. But then Isner fought back to deuce on Anderson's serve. Well, Isner couldn't quite follow through. Anderson recovered and took the fourth set 6-4. 6-4. It seemed almost inevitable that this was going to a fifth set, and it seemed almost inevitable that it would run into overtime. There are no tie breaks in the fifth set at Wimbledon, so the players just play on and on and on until one breaks and can go up 2 games and take the match. So that happened over and over and over again. On a number of different occasions, Isner went down love 30 on his own serve, but then fought back to hold. I think that happened 3 or 4 times. But finally, Isner could not turn back the surge of the mighty South African. At 24-24, with Isner serving, Kevin Anderson broke John Isner for the 4th time in the match, and then went on to hold his serve and take the 5th set 26-24 to land a spot in his 2nd Grand Slam final. Congratulations to Kevin Anderson for a hard-fought match, and to be honest, Kevin Anderson really was the better player on the court. He served slightly better than Isner. He won 298 points to Isner's 271. He served 49 aces to Isner's 53, which was very impressive. But most of all, and it's kind of ironic because you have 2 big servers, you'd think it would all come down to the serves, but no, it came down to the ground game. The 2 big serves just canceled each other out. It came down to who could hold it together from the baseline. And Kevin Anderson, folks, just like in the match against Roger Federer, proved to be more consistent and more formidable from the baseline than John Isner. Of course, in this 5th set, exhaustion played a big role, and Isner was just, for lack of a better term, pooped. Kevin Anderson was able to push through and unbelievably seemed energetic at the end. He certainly had more energy than Isner. So this was a commendable effort by Anderson. He deserves a spot in this final. I will have a lot more to come on what I think is going to be the more interesting semifinal between Djokovic and Nadal. I'm looking at it down here. Nothing untoward has happened quite yet, but I will have a lot more to come on that very exciting match. But with respect to the Anderson versus Isner match, again, this is kind of a new breed of player. They bring the best of both worlds in a way. Big serves on the one hand, but not only big serves. They back them up with very powerful baseline play. The Isner-Anderson semifinal pit 2 players cut from basically the same cloth against each other. And you could argue that Nadal versus Djokovic does the same thing in a way. But the final will be different. We'll have 2 different styles, 2 different paradigms, as it were, on display. Rafa and Novak surely know how to beat serve bots. That is, players who bring serving alone to the equation. But what about this new breed of player? The big hitters, the big servers who also bring very effective ground games. Can Rafa or Novak get the better of this new breed, personified in Kevin Anderson as it happens? We're just going to have to see what happens. I will be back at you very soon. Subscribe to the channel. I hope everyone is well. Signing off from Boston.